Hello and welcome to The Life You're Made For. I'm your host, Dr. Heather Penny. Often our world feels reactive, confusing, and chaotic. On this show, we're going to slow down together. Take a breath, listen, and learn. We'll be joined in conversations with influential thinkers who will help us make new connections, understand our unique potential, check the beliefs we hold, and learn how to overcome unexpected challenges. I know that each and every one of us holds our own inner clarity, confidence, and courage, what I call 3C living and leading. So let's go after it together. I'm cheering you on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to have a guest on my show. He's one of my favorite people in the whole world. My son, Luke Penny. Hey, Luke, how you doing?
Yes, I'm doing great. Thank you, Mom, Dr. Heather Penny. I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
The reason I invited Luke onto this show was because in my most recent book, Grace Space, it's a book that I dedicated to him. So I wanted to bring him on for a conversation. But before we jump into that conversation, Luke, would you tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do, what you're about in life?
Well, yeah, sure. You guys know I'm Luke Penny, Dr. Heather Penny's son. I am a student at Pepperdine University, going to my senior year, majoring in English, and I'm just home for a couple weeks, hanging out with my family and appearing on this podcast. So yeah, here I am.
Thanks, Luke. I appreciate that. I appreciate you being here today. Can you read for the audience the dedication? Because I think that'll be a great place for us to start.
Yeah, for sure. This is found right after the title page of Grace Space, right before the table of contents. It says, "To my favorite son, Luke Maximus, who committed to helping his mom create spaces of grace when she had never raised a teenage son before." Thanks, Mom.
You're welcome, son. You're welcome. So, in the work that I do, creating spaces of grace, and you've heard me use the term spaces where we live and where we lead. There's no difference. Who we are in the spaces that we live in and who we are in the spaces that we lead in need to be congruent for us to be authentic, not just leaders, but just people. Yeah. So I took a leadership book and I thought I want to dedicate it to my son because he and I have worked through our own relationship and making sure we have a grace space with us. And so I guess I want to start there, Luke. Why do you think that I dedicated this book to you?
Yeah, I think kind of like what you were saying. You lead how you live. You practice what you preach. And I think there'd be some times where we would go off on our own, living our own really nice, gracious lives. I'd go to school, I'd be nice, and I'd make a bunch of friends and yada, yada, yada. And I'd be the cool guy living out grace space that you taught me. And you'd go to work, helping everybody solve their own problems, living their grace space. Then by the time we come home and we're ready to relax, we do not have the patience to deal with each other or any shenanigans.
We're out of grace space.
Have it our way. We're out, and we wanted to have it our way. And obviously that doesn't work. Yeah. And it took us a little while to figure that out. And it's obvious to say that doesn't work, but also it's not obvious to figure out. And it gets complicated because you feel tired and you want it your way. Mm-hmm. And that you is a general you, not just you.
Right.
So I think we both have had to work on that. And I think we both like things very different ways sometimes too. So that led to a lot of arguments, and we were both tired sometimes. And in those arguments, we really had to slow down and remember, like, okay, we are tired. We both are on the same team trying to figure this out. And this isn't going to be a big deal. It doesn't need to be a big deal. And we can make it not even a deal at all.
Oh, well said. I never thought about it that succinctly. It's like we ran out of grace space. When you were saying that, I was like, you're right on, Luke. That's exactly what's happening. We spent it on all our friends and in my area, clients, and your friends at school and teachers and everyone else you were engaging with, and all your even just being involved with sports. It takes a lot of emotional energy, doesn't it? Not just physical.
We both had a different 9 to 5 going on.
Well said. And then we'd come home and it was like we weren't giving each other our best. And
Hmm.
I don't even think we saw it that clearly back then. You know, hindsight's
Oh yeah,
2020. So I think we're seeing it clearly now. But
exactly.
I don't know. I think it started probably around 13 or 14, would you say?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure exactly where it started. I think you would probably better answer that than I am. I was just less aware of everything when I was younger.
Yeah, as you should be. Yeah, I would say it
Yeah.
was kind of your young teenage years. We started becoming aware a little bit more of conflict, and neither of us wanted it. It was making you
Hmm.
sad. It was making me sad. And I remember sitting down with you saying, I've never raised a son before. You're actually my only son. And most of the time, I don't even know what I'm doing. This is my first time around.
Yeah.
So if you're patient with me, I promise I'll be patient with you. And I will really commit to listening to you. And I would ask if you would really commit to listening to me. And I think that was the beginning of us creating a gray space between a teenage boy and a mom, a middle-aged mom, you know, trying to figure out life and making sure that we not only saved enough for each other, but I think created the unique gray space that a teenage son needed with his mom and a mom needed with his teenage son to support where you were living and how you were growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So for context, tell everybody how old are you now?
I am 20, almost 21 now. So this has been years in the making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would say that I guess I'll ask you to define it because I'm thinking of a
Mm,
definition too. What does gray space look like between me? I'm 55. You're almost 21. What does that look like between us as two humans and mother and son?
that's a good question. I think it's easier if I start kind of like back at the beginning of what it used to look like, 'cause that's a little more simple.
Sure.
And like you said, hindsight's 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like back when I was younger, it might be like, man, I don't want to clean my room. I don't understand why I have to eat my vegetables and do good in school, and I don't want to empty the dishwasher every day.
Mm-hmm.
Just small stuff like that.
Yeah.
But back then it was like, okay, well, my mom cares about it, and she is older and successful, and she probably has a point. Even if I don't understand the point or understand why she cares about it,
Mm-hmm.
she gives me a lot of stuff. She cares about me really well, and I at least owe her that courtesy to care about her.
Mm.
And I don't have to understand, but I do have to care about her. So I think it's what you definitely used to look like. What currently looks like, I don't know exactly. I think it gets more complicated as we both navigate our own independent lives. And obviously, I'm not as dependent as I once was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think my best guess would be whenever we try to get together or we are together,
Mm-hmm.
um, we're both we're not going to agree on everything. We're both going to
Mm-hmm.
want different things, see things differently, but that isn't the full story. It doesn't need to be the full story,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't let it be the full story. And we
Oh,
have
well
to
said.
like remember that that stuff doesn't matter that much. We're both here. We love each other despite that, and that's what does matter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
I love that. I think as you're talking, when I think about gray space between us, there's two words that come to mind. The first one is patience.
Definitely.
We both had to grow in that, didn't we? And I think part of it is
Yeah.
we're very verbal and we're very fast processors, and we're also pretty strong individuals.
Yeah.
We're both very confident of our own perspectives in life, and
Yeah.
which leads me to the second word, which is listening. I realized I really needed to commit to listening to what a 13-year-old boy felt like, not what I think he should feel like. 15,
Mm,
16, 17, 18, all the way up to 20. I mean, we had a little bit of a conversation the other night on the front porch, right? Where we both had to
yeah.
slow it down and commit to patience with one another and commit to really listening to one another.
Hmm.
And it reminds me of an example, and I'm sorry, I can't remember how old you are. Maybe you can refresh my memory, but
It's okay.
I think you were a little older in high school and you started taking guitar lessons. Do you remember that
Yeah.
outing?
Yeah, no, I do.
And that was right after we had our talk where I said, listen, I promise you, I commit to listening to you and slowing it down. And I'm clearly missing something, but hang in there with me. As long as you're respectful with me, I will slow it down and make sure that I'm really listening to what your perspective looks like and not what I think your perspective should be, because I want it to align with mine. It's a real self-centered way to live.
Yeah.
And I remember we went into the guitar store to hire that guitar teacher. And boy, we came out in the car. I was thinking it was an awesome meeting. We came out the car. You were steaming mad, and I remember going. I was starting to feel like, well, I'm going to get mad at you, for heaven's sakes. I'm hiring a guitar teacher. Like, good grief, you should at least just say thank you. I mean, that's the mom stuff, right? That's what we're thinking as a mom. And then I realized, wait a minute. I told him I'd slow it down and listen to him. And I remember sitting in the car going, okay, help me understand what just happened, because clearly I missed something. Do you remember that scenario?
I do. Yeah. Do you remember what it was specifically too?
Well, okay, here's a test, okay? Because I'll tell
Okay.
you what I think that I remember. So you have to tell me whether I'm right or I'm wrong. But
Okay.
I think this is the way I remember it. When I really got inside your head, you were over mom talking for you, and you wanted to go in there and talk with the guitar teacher. You didn't want mom going in there and handling it. You wanted me to just kind of be on the sidelines. And you were becoming a young man and you were competent. You wanted to talk with him and tell him your goals and dreams for guitar. You didn't want mom talking for you. Did I capture that?
Yeah, that's kind of the main idea.
Do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, a little bit, not like kind of. I just like I remember exactly what it was. And what you said was right. I just remember like more specifically, we were sitting at the desk and he was telling us all the teachers that were available and all the lesson times. And I'm just here. He's like, so we have these teachers on these days or these times. And I was thinking like, oh, what time do I want? You just said like Tuesday at 10 a.m. works. I'm like, what? Oh, okay.
Didn't even check with you, did I?
Yeah, it was that's what it was. And I'm just like, what? Okay, I mean, she's not wrong, but like, I'd like to pick.
Yeah. Yeah, I could have shown a little more patience, and even just, respecting your self-agency, that you're engaging with this process and you're going to be the one taking the lessons and practicing on the guitar. So you want to be able to say what works for you and what doesn't.
Yeah, I
So
think I was 16 by then too, so I was driving myself completely. Um, yeah, but also I understand you that like you're putting down your card, you're the mom, and I'm just some kid at the end of the day.
well, and of course, I remember this conversation where I'm like, dude, I thought I was helping you. And
Oh
you're
yeah,
like,
you were.
and we had to learn how to have that. Part of our grace-based language was saying, thank you, mom, but that's not helping. I remember that became a really popular phrase with you because I started getting mad because going, what in the world are you mad at me for? I'm just trying to help you. I'm trying to help you, whatever, get guitar lessons or be healthy or eat your vegetables or get you to school or get you all these different places.
Yeah,
And to be able to slow it down enough, and really going back to those two components for grace space with you, which was patience and listening, where I wanted to just set my own ego aside, my own hurt feelings aside, my being misunderstood, and go, wait a minute, clearly I missed something. Help me understand what I missed. And I remember you just patiently talking to me about it. And you were working really hard with patience with your grace space and listening with your grace space for me. And I remember we got to it and I said, oh, okay. So if I do it differently, I just need to kind of stay on the sidelines and let you handle things, which is appropriate. You were a young man and you're becoming more and more independent, which leads us to kind of where we're at today, stepping into that space and saying, what does grace space look for us now? And how is it going to continue to grow? I think that's the question I keep asking myself. Just curious if you have any thoughts on that.
yeah, I have a little more thoughts, and this thought kind of came to me as you were talking a little bit too, because all those examples we gave about like taking me places, scheduling things, getting to school, eating vegetables, like that's all right. But I also feel like it's missing something. It's kind of at the core of it because I think it's a lot more emotional and like interactional than anything. It's always like a lot of small things that build up, and I think we're kind of missing like just a really core element of that. It's hard. It's harder to explain or pick up on, but yeah. Do you kind of get what I'm saying a little bit?
I do. I think that I was making assumptions that you were the same person at 16 as you were maybe at 12 or 11. And I wasn't slowing down to ask you, is this important to you? Like, what do you want this to look like?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about what you said, and I think that's right. I think just the way we interact continues to change and continue to change.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a lot of small things like, hey, I don't like being interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hey, I don't like it when you react this way when I say this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a lot of stuff like that that just builds up. Um, and it kind of creeps up on you sometimes too. And I
Mm-hmm.
think all that stuff is more powerful and important than all like the actual actions, but it is also harder to notice and harder to deal with.
Yeah, I think the practice as we pivot over to the book, the seven practices, one of
Hmm.
the practices that really stands out to me in cultivating grace space with you then and now and hopefully for the future is my commitment to respond versus react. I
Mm.
think it's easy to react as a mother or someone that thinks I know better for someone else, or as a loved one, or we get in old habits or bad habits, and learning to say, wait a minute, I'm choosing to respond to my son. And part of responding to him is that he's always evolving. And I am too, but
Yeah.
I think sometimes I forget that and I may treat you as someone I remember you when you were 11 or somewhere else.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And you're right. I do that for you too. You
Hmm.
always have your own thoughts and life. And I think sometimes, especially as a kid, it's easy to get caught in your own and forget that your parents have their own lives. And I just need to consider that as well. So that's what I'm trying to say is it goes both ways,
Hmm.
despite me being a kid.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you got to read Gray Space, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, of
Your
course.
commitment to say, I don't want to do this show until I've read the book, Mom. So, in the middle of your
Yes.
busy rigorous academic schedule, you read my book. So, I thank you for that. But
Yeah, of course.
I guess I want to ask you um, maybe what was some overall takeaways from the book?
Yeah. Um, I think the biggest takeaway, we already talked about this a little bit, was just patience.
Mm.
Um, and I think I bring a definitely unique perspective to the book, no doubt. I live with the author. Um, but also, I think just from some of my own like education experiences, I've kind of had just the idea that there's a lot of things you aren't going to understand, especially when it comes to other people and their emotions. And you can try to understand a little bit, but most of the time you just have to be content with not understanding.
Hmm.
And I think that's a huge key to making gray space work because I'm I'm not going to understand the problems and emotions of a middle-aged woman, and I'm not expected to.
Yes.
And I'm not going to understand the problems and emotions of my roommate from some other state or
Hmm.
my friend from this culture. It's like
Mm.
there's so many ways that humans can be different, and there's so many different walks of life you can come from, and yeah, you're not going to understand. And if you don't realize that, then it's going to be really hard for you to make gray space work.
Gosh, well said. I think sometimes too, I hope you don't mind me bringing up this young example,
No,
but
it's okay.
okay, I think you were 3 and holy cow. If I cut your little granola bar in half or broke it in
Oh my
half,
gosh.
yeah,
I want the whole thing.
it was the worst thing I could have ever done to you. And I remember
No,
taking you
why?
by your little shoulder saying, I don't know why it's so important for you to have this granola bar
I don't either.
intact. Yeah, but it doesn't matter to me. If it's important to you, it's important to me. I remember the seams on your socks were just such a stress case every day where it was taking us, sometimes it felt like hours getting your socks so that they wouldn't bother your toes. And so finally I said, why are we wearing socks? We live in California. I'm going to get you Crocs and we're throwing away all your socks. Because if it's important to you, it's important to me. So it was a phrase that I really got to your point saying, I don't have to understand it. And I don't know if I ever will. And I don't even know if you ever will. You
Yeah.
just needed someone to say, I see you and I hear you and it's important to you.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's so true. It's important to you. It's important to me.
Yeah.
That yeah, that's kind of the same thing as what I was saying, or at least similar.
Mhm.
And it just is so crucial to gray space.
Yeah, it is. So out of the 7 practices, which one stood out to you the most?
Yes, let me open my book here to table of contents, make sure I get the verbiage correct. Um, yes, questioning versus accusing. That was the one that got me because kind of goes off of our understanding thing.
Yeah.
Um, you're not gonna understand. You're gonna have questions.
Yeah.
Um, and it's very important to not ask guided questions. I guess what I'm trying to say is you can get the same information but phrase it really differently.
Mhm.
And that changes the whole tone of the conversation.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, because
Is it
I want to aim to understand rather than to be right. It's not about being right. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter who's right. And
Mhm.
there probably is no right or wrong a
Mhm.
lot of the time. Um, so it's about questioning to understand rather than questioning to accuse. You don't want to trap somebody.
Well said. Is there an example coming to mind?
That's what I was trying to think of, I guess. It's hard to just think of a no, I don't have an example.
That's all right. But I like your thought too that if we question in a spirit of almost we can question and almost do a spirit of accusation, can't we?
Hmm.
And it can sound like this: "What are you doing that for?" I mean, you're still
Yeah,
accusing, even though you're asking a question. But being able to say, "Hey, what are you doing that for?" It's a
yeah,
very tone is everything, isn't it?
yeah.
And the heartbeat of grace space is 2 things: curiosity and compassion. Staying
Yeah.
curious with why someone is doing something and really showing that they're curious. Staying compassionate. And I bet that's something you're probably working on with all your roommates too, right? You guys all thrown
Oh yeah,
together.
yeah. I'm great friends with all of them. They're all great. Tom, Dan, are all
Mm-hmm.
very awesome guys.
Yes. Shout out to
But we
them.
live to yes, shout out to them. But we live together.
Yeah.
And we all share a living space, and we see things differently. We all come from different households that do things differently. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
And being able to slow it down and have curiosity and have compassion. Because
Hmm.
to your point, it isn't about being right. And if that's our goal, I think we've just sabotaged or honestly blown up gray space. If my desire is to be right, I don't know what the opposite of gray space. It's probably shame space or hate space or something.
Yeah, anger space.
Anger space. Yeah. Ugly space. But it becomes a space that we don't want to live in, and it's not where we want to invite people into it as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, it's funny too because when you think about gray space, it's like being more patient and caring towards other people.
Mm-hmm.
And what you don't realize until you start practicing it is that it actually helps you more than it helps other people in a
Yeah.
way. Um, because it just frees you and allows you to just have better connections.
Gosh, I love that you brought that point up
Yeah, thanks.
because everything I write, I'll just tell you my big fat secret here. It's pretty much for me. The Life You're Made For, The Bracelet, Gray Space, all the books that I've written. It's me
Hmm.
working through stuff and
Hmm.
saying, I want to level up as a human being. And I'm realizing that Gray Space is actually made up of 7 choices. Do I want to offer more freedom, more trust, more questions, more responding, more connection? To your
Hmm.
point, one of the practices is connection versus protection. The essence of gray space connects us not only to our sense of self better, but to the world.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
So as you were reading through it, was there one that you saw like, ooh, I have more challenges around that one or even questions around that one?
Yeah, for sure. Let me open up the little table of contents again. It has been a little while since I read it. I just want to make sure I get everything right.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I'd love to hear you talk about freedom versus control in your words.
Ooh, yeah, that's one of the more challenging ones.
Hmm.
Well, I'll put it in example of leadership. You've probably seen enough for me as a mom. Also, I'll put it in leadership example.
Hmm.
If I'm working with a client and I'm supporting their development and leadership, even just the idea of gray space is actually a great example. I've had people come to the conversations with me and say, I am so mad at my supervisor. They did XYZ and I can't stand them and I just don't even want to be here anymore. And I listen and I'm like, yeah, I understand that. And oh, that does sound unfair. And oh boy, I hear you. But I give them an option when I say, well, is there something you want to do about it?
Mm.
It's that awareness where they'll sometimes stop and they'll kind of look at me and say, what do you mean do about it? I said, you actually have the freedom to decide how you're going to handle this.
Yeah.
You can't control the other person, but you do have the freedom of how you're going to step into this. You have the freedom of how you're going to think about it. You have the freedom
Hmm.
to decide if you're going to forgive. You have the freedom to talk about it, to handle it. You can try and control the other person in the circumstances, but we both know how that's going to end,
Yeah.
right? So it's that awareness of living with a sense of freedom and says, I can't control them, but I can go to them and say, hey, I really didn't like it when whatever you took away my Fridays and now I have to come into work when I used to have to be able to work at home on Fridays. I was like, yep,
Hmm.
you can start there and articulate it and you can step into that and have that freedom, or you can go try and control the process, which will only backfire on you badly.
Yeah.
So does that help?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think um sometimes I forget that the Gray Space is a leadership book
Mm,
because a lot of the principles can be applied to just your everyday life. Um, and they should be.
yeah.
But it sounds like I think freedom versus control is a bit more leadership specific because if you're not leading, then you don't really have much you can control beyond yourself. And there isn't much of a freedom versus control
Hmm.
dynamic going on. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think freedom versus control is that relevant if you're not controlling anyone outside of your own personal sphere.
Mm,
Like, take me, I'm not in a position of power over anyone. I'm not a parent.
hmm.
I am the only one that I control.
Right.
Um, and you don't really have that freedom versus control dynamic. I guess you could say discipline is kind of a freedom versus control, but that's also kind of that's just not what the book's about, I guess.
Well, I sure saw you practice that with some of your peers when you stopped trying to control the situation or the relationship. You just kind
Yeah.
of stepped away. You're like,
I guess you're right.
yeah. So, but it is one of the trickier ones. And I've had to work really hard and I've had leaders say, what did you mean by this one? And so it's an ongoing thing. And to your point, I think it's really a mindset of all I can do is control myself. All I can do is really focus on me. And I have to let other people go and not try and focus on them or blame them or try and control them is really kind of the essence behind that practice.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. No, I'm getting a little more then. That makes more sense.
Good.
Thanks.
Well, as we start wrapping up, I guess I just want to ask you, what do you want to leave with our listeners? What encouragement?
Mm. Um, yeah, I think Gray Space is awesome and it should be implemented in your life, but it's also not easy. Um, it's not going to happen overnight. As you heard, we started this when I was about 14 and I'm almost 21. So it's been the last third of my life. And you also, as we also mentioned earlier, we had a little argument the other night. But we sorted it out, we worked through
Hmm.
it, but we still get in arguments sometimes. And that's just how life goes. And they're not big deals. So it's not going to happen overnight. And it's honestly never going to stop happening.
Yeah.
It's like just a way you live your life and conflicts happen. So it is what it is,
Yeah.
but don't get discouraged when they happen. I think one more thing is just that everyone's trying their best.
Mm-hmm.
Rarely is someone intentionally trying to sabotage you. In my experience, that almost is never the case. But it is really easy to say that, oh, that person doesn't like me. They're trying to mess with me. I'm like, no. If you really think about it, slow down. I doubt they'd go out of their way to show up to this event that they don't normally go to just to mess with you. That's just not how the world works. It's not how people work.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying their best and doing things that's good for themselves. And people aren't trying to hurt you most of the time.
Oh, that's well said. I like that. Yeah, assume good intent. And it kind of goes along with that practice of receptivity versus defensiveness. Being receptive, that the world is more on your side than you probably realize, will keep you in a receptive state. If you go around looking for who's against you, it's going to keep you in a defensive state.
Yeah. No, most people aren't against you because most people don't even care.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. Yeah, and I guess I would leave people with this idea too, that you're all very good at heart. In my work with humanity, I don't think I've ever had one person say, well, now that you mention it, Heather, I could either be receptive or I could be defensive. I'm going to choose the latter. I want to be a defensive person. I've never had anyone say that to me. They've said, oh, yeah, now that you mention it, I didn't realize that was the choice that's juxtaposing some of my defensiveness right now. Yeah, I'd love to choose more receptivity. So I guess that's where I want to honor Grace Space and honor everybody sorting through where it is that they want to focus on, but choose one practice. Sometimes I just focus on one practice a year to grow in, because it does take practice, and that's why I call it practice. And it gives you something else to reach for when life is coming at you pretty fast and furious. And that split second where I want to be defensive with my son, I tell myself, no, I want to be receptive. That split second that I am feeling like I want to protect myself, and we're in a conversation, I don't like how it's going, I go, wait a minute, no, I want to be connected to my son. And we have a split second to decide. And I think once we have clarity on what our choices are in front of us, and words are powerful, we can make that decision to reach for something other than that old habit that just keeps spinning a relationship around and around, and honestly attracting people in your world that you don't want in your world, and you don't want to have those kind of relating styles in your world. So I guess that's where I would leave people too.
Yeah.
Luke, thanks for being on today.
One more closing thought.
Oh, you got one more closing thought? Please do.
Yeah. Just one thing I said earlier, it's like most people don't care and they're not trying to hurt you. But I'd also kind of challenge people and say that things tend to really work out when you decide to be the person that does care. For everybody, like, because when you don't know someone, you have the option to not care or to care. And it's really easy not to care.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And most of the time, it's not that much harder to care either. But it also makes a huge difference. So, yeah, just be the person that cares for everybody.
I love that thought. That's a great one to end on. Be the person that cares.
Thank you.
Compassion, curiosity, and caring is really the heartbeat of Grace Space.
Well, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Are those 3 other C's, Luke?
Oh my gosh. Another 3C book incoming.
I got to get off the C's.
3C part 2. You think it'd be 3D, but it's still 3C.
All right. Take care, everyone. We are cheering you on. Thanks so much for listening in. It was a great conversation, wasn't it? Wow. Check the show notes for any additional resources. Also, maybe where to find our guests. And if you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review. It sure helps us out. Thanks so much. We are always cheering you on.